Hey, what's going on? So, we did a couple of videos and we were talking about grazing cattle. And so, which led me to kind of see meat, why meat is like there's a war against meat, okay? Um, let's just go back a little bit. Um, meat, the in 1992 at the Earth Summit, the opening statement was meat. Well, it didn't start with meat, but it said skiing, golfing, meat. Okay. And about 30 other things were no longer sustainable and we have to stop. And you know, it's funny. I've been driving around. Golf courses were huge. And now, now they're like only half of them are being used. I've been to abandoned ski resorts. So this stuff's all been going on. So meat. And, you know, what's the big thing about meat? So the big thing is they try to tell you that meat, you know, cows fart, burp, and poop, and they create methane and they destroy the planet. Okay, where this come from? I can't make this up. Apparently, they did some ice borings and it went back and looked at the dinosaur extinctions, and then in the ice, they're able to say, "Oh, the dinosaurs farted." Okay, and they created, you know, disaster. So if the dinosaurs farts, well, so do so do cows. So they do fart. Okay, but let's get into the real reason why there is a war against meat. Okay, first of all, I don't know. You know, you can look at meat bunch of different ways. So, you know, meat. What does it do? If you eat a lot of meat, what? It raises cholesterol. Is that what the doctors tell us? Sure. Risk of coronary heart disease. Yeah. Risk of type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Stroke, high blood pressure. You know, and maybe possible cancer. Right. And then on the other token, I mean, if you don't eat meat, okay, and this happens to vegans and vegetarians, possibly, you know, sure they have a higher um, fiber, they're higher in fiber, but they have a low risk, I guess, of heart disease and a low risk of premature death. You know, this is a lot of this is propaganda, okay. You know, depending on which doctor and which you know which um, agenda you want to look at. Okay, it can manage type 2 diabetes, manage lesser risk, but then again, what do the vegans do? Well, they got it. They have an imbalance. So what do? They drink soy milk. I mean, what does soy milk do? Maybe that messes up. I know that there are some studies where they found out that it messed up the genders of frogs. So who knows what soy does? Soy is probably not good for you. And maybe we'll do a video on soy next. But and they also study shows that vegans and vegetarians take more sick days. I don't know what that means, but they do. It can cause by not eating meat. It could cause fatigue. People, now you don't see too many fat vegans, do you? So maybe it's good for that. Maybe they're not as big as meat eaters, but they're also weak, right? And they have appetite loss. You can have, so you don't get enough zinc, right? You don't get enough B12 when you're not eating meat. You can get a meat anemia. So we're not going to play doctors here, okay? We don't really care. We're going to talk about what's behind the meat war. It's not nutrition, and it's probably not cow farts, okay? And even though they say that actually, if you take all the animals on this planet, dogs and cats cause 25% of the farting that's going on. 25% of animal farts come from pets, dogs and cats. Okay. All right. So, and then, then you got wildlife farts, right? Tigers and whatever. Okay. We're not gonna get into it, but you want to keep things from farting. Think about if you got 4 or 5 dogs, you're farting away, man. You're farting the planet away, according to the green flag waivers. So now meat does do a couple good things. I'm just gonna we'll get into the reason here in a second. I mean, it provides nutrients, provides iodine. Hey, iodine's good. You know, we got all this cancer issues, and we've got releases of cancer, isotopes from fallouts and things like that, and who knows how many releases. And so, what is iodine? Iodine is something that if you had radiation in your body, it would help. So, by eating meat, it helps the radioactive body, right? The body burden. It provides iron and zinc. What does iron and zinc do? Well, if you want to kill parasites, 80% of us have parasites. Parasites, molds, and mildews, and bacteria and cancers don't like metals. So if you eat meat, hey, maybe the zinc. Yeah, I know one thing. I'm an inspector now for 40 years, and our roofs went through different histories of manufacturing types. And for a while, they were making roofs out of limestone byproducts. And what are those? She shells. And all these roofs all over the country would streak. In other words, you'd have like the mold streaking. And how would you fix that? You put zinc strips on the roof. And the water rain would hit the zinc strip and it would kill the mold. Not rocket science. Mold, mildews, bacteria, bugs, pests, parasites, worms don't like metals. Zinc. So you eat meat. Hey, maybe you're going to kill parasites. You don't eat meat. Maybe you got parasites. So I'm just throwing this out there, okay? And so you can look at meat any way you want, all right? And so the healthiest meat that you could possibly eat is the liver. I don't like liver. I just never liked it because it's going to be very high in A, B12, B6, folic acid, zinc, all that, and essential amino acids, okay? And if you stop eating meat altogether, you could have a risk of not having iron, B12, the same thing. And they call it muscle wasting or anemia. So some of you might call it, I lose weight. That's good. Not necessarily. You're losing muscles. Okay. All right. Now that we've got some of this out of the way, the rise of vegetarian. Why do you see more and more people fighting, hating meat? Okay. And even the World Health Organization, they basically said the leading cause of death in the world is heart disease. And of course, they're going to say meat can cause heart disease, right? So you got one of these misleading, huge, they call them the scientists, okay? And what do colleges teach our kids? They teach them three things. Don't argue. Facts are man-made. Listen to your authority and listen to your scientists. That's why these kids listen to all this stuff, all right? And so the WHO is an authority. If they say don't eat meat, you don't eat. And another thing is in colleges, I checked it out. It's very interesting that college kids represent 14% of the vegetarians and vegans, whereas the general public's only 4%. These are true, that stick with it, okay? And then I looked at these other facts that Republican kids 27% will eat meat with every meal, and only 11% of Democrat kids from college will eat meat with every meal. And so, and then pure abstinence, okay, from meat. Like I'm not touching meat. It's only 4% of Republicans and 21% of Democrats. These are college kids, okay? And so, the kids, okay? So there's a little bit of propaganda going on. There's a little bit of mind control going on. These college professors, that stuff's going on, okay? So let's talk about why, okay? And so, there's a lot of false flags, too. Not necessarily false flags, but there's bird flu outbreaks, so they go kill chickens. They make you scared because you can get poisoned by mad cow. And we'll do a video just on that because I need to do some research to show you how they're destroying animals and farm animals throughout the country with this type of fear, this fear factor. Okay, but here it is. It's about grazing. They want to stop grazing, and it's all about the Wildlands Project. I did a bunch of videos on it. In 1991, they came out with the Wildlands Project. In 1992, they came out with Agenda 21, and it's rewilding of America. And it's all about what grazing does to the land. And so grazing causes species endangerment, okay? It basically destroys the land. And what is it? It destroys the vegetation. Okay, supposedly well, it does. It damages the soils. It damages the streams and banks. Disrupts the total natural process. Okay, and 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 let's talk about the streams and banks. What did Clinton do? He basically took back 150,000 streams and banks. So he took it back and to stop this, okay? Because they wanted the beavers to come back. It's all about species, okay? It's all about the Wildlands Project. And what the Wildlands Project is, if you haven't seen my other videos, is they want to revamp America and basically the whole world. We'll just talk about America. And there's the maps. And what they're doing is they're taking the land away. The government's already got 50% of America on federal land. And what they want to do is create these cores, okay, where animals live. And the animals they really that they need to put in the cores are bears, and we'll just say bears and wolves, okay, because they're at the top of the food chain. If you don't have little parks are too small, even Yellowstone's too small. And if you don't have bears and wolves, then everything crashes, okay? So it's all about putting bears and wolves and making big cores. So you take a land away and you make the cores, okay, large, so these animals could be sustained. And if you watch my other videos, it'll explain, how that works, okay? Now, they're also doing what's called corridors. So the government's taking back a lot of land, grabbing land. That's all happening. They steal land from the Everglades, kicking people off their properties or flooding, and I talked about that in other videos. And the corridors connect cores. So cores and corridors connect so animals can roam freely because they have rights, we don't. And they're going to move us to little corners, okay, called stack and packs in high population zones. And then there'll be buffer zones where you and me can't go, just the animal counters get to go, all right? So grazing destroys all this, okay? And so it destroys the topsoil. And when it destroys the topsoil, it creates dust. What happens then? The dust is kind of pollution. It changes the way nature works. And so they need to bring back, and this is what they're called keystone predators, okay? And that was the grizzly bear and the Mexican gray wolf, okay? And they leave, okay? When you've got grazing, it destroys the land, the forests are too small, it doesn't sustain these species. This whole country is going on what's called the Wildlands Project, in Rewilding America, Agenda 21, Agenda 30, and Agenda 50. You got to check it out. It's all real. I got a couple of videos on it, or you can watch other people's videos. And so they need the predators back. Now, another problem is the grazing people kill these predators, okay? Because you can't have wolves and sheep. It doesn't work, right? The wolf, they got to shoot the wolf. So they actually kill these animals, okay? And they kill the bears. And that's a problem, okay? So the farmers are killing these guys, all right? And so there's been a couple studies. Now, Clinton actually introduced wolves and bears after he took a bunch of land from people. He took coastlines and you got to look at the land grabs that were done, and they're still doing them today. And don't call me, please. Somebody's calling me. I'm trying to do this live, and it messes up my live. So 2015, okay, they did a study on the economics of livestock grazing. This is kind of interesting. And they wanted to see, and the government does get paid a little bit from these farmers. And so they would graze their animals on public lands, and Clinton got rid of some of that, and they're getting rid of all that now. And it came out to that it was costing $1.69. Their government was making $1.69 per animal per month. So you could feed a cow on government land for $1.69. That's a pretty good deal. And that they compare that to what it costs to feed a cat. So I think it costs way more money to feed a cat than it does to feed a cow. Okay, so grazing on land like that works as far as the meat goes. All right. Well, anyways, so that's what they figured out, and it wasn't like a whole lot of money. $1.06. We're not making no money off these people. They're killing our land. They're trampling. They're causing dust. They're destroying our streams, and so they want to stop overgrazing. And this is the meat thing isn't so much about the health thing. It's not so much about cow farts, and it's not so much about um, it's not so much about climate change. Okay, it's about rewilding the land and making the forest bigger. When you have small forests, you don't have wolves and bears, and we don't have wolves and bears, you end up getting a ton of deer and a ton of elk. And what do? They eat the trees, so the tree forests don't get bigger, And so it's all about that. And so, it's about bringing the bear and wolf back to the forest and making the forest bigger and moving you and me out. That's what it's about, okay? It's not about farts. And I'm sure they try to put that in there into the mix. So you want, and then also they want to say protecting endangered species, okay? And so right now they're shutting down millions of acres of land. They're not letting them graze on. So it's going to be hard to graze animals, okay? So they're just getting us ready for it. And that's why meat's so expensive. You try to buy meat lately, $13, $18 a pound. You know why? Because they can't graze for free, the $1.69 a month. They got to feed them GMO. And so even the meat, back then, maybe the meat was better than it is today. So you got to think about that whole thing. So, so 1990s, that's Clinton and those guys. So they got rid of all the cattle that was on the Gila River, okay? Because, and there's what they said. They said, well, we got to bring back the yellow-billed cuckoo, okay, and the Mexican garter snake because they were becoming extinct. And there was all kind of lawsuits and all kind of changes. The new administration changed all that, and they enforced the Agenda 21, the Wildlands Project, which was the Rea De Janeiro Earth Summit meeting where 18,000 people came and 100 country leaders signed up for this. We signed up to do this, okay? And so, they removed the cows and sheep from these areas. Okay, then they removed from 2.5 million miles in the desert because, the desert tortoise, right? And I don't even know what this is, the southwestern willow flycanthum. I don't even know what that is. Okay, so there's a bunch of animal species in the desert. So no more grazing in the desert or desert areas. That's 2.5 million acres. No more food for you. And then and then all of a sudden in other areas, for example, around Yellowstone, because they need Yellowstone to get bigger, right? And so by making Yellowstone bigger, we're talking 75,000 acres of land, and that was basically so they could bring the grizzly back, and they could bring the bear back, and when they bring them back, they get the lynx. The lynx comes back. Nothing wrong with this, okay? I'm totally about nature, all right? But I'm not about transforming, life in America as we know it. So in Yellowstone, they took all the land back around there. Before you know it, you're not gonna be able to go there. You remember they shut down all the parks for a while because they said we didn't have any money. You think it had anything to do with money? It was probably a test. Every time they do something like this, it's a test. Just like the airplanes didn't fly for a whole week when a couple buildings came down, that was a test. And so these tests are done simultaneously in multiple facets all over the world. Okay, in 2011, they stopped cattle grazing in Arizona because they were trying to bring back some leopard frogs, and then again, so total just recently, not recently, but since like 2015 or 14, 60 million acres of land in America stopped grazing. And you heard about all the lawsuits. We're not going to get into those and the firearms stuff and all that. I mean, we'll do some videos on it. I'll probably do a part B on the meat, okay? Because I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly, and I don't want to make this an hour. But so they're stopping the grazing, not because the colleges tell the kids they can't eat meat and meat's bad for you, okay? And the CDC and World Health Organization says it's the number one debt killer and the cholesterol and all that stuff. I don't know about all that, okay? I mean, you can believe whoever you want to believe. I think you need to have a normal diet, maybe not too much meat, and maybe some meat, okay? And what kind of meat, all right? Probably the old meat was better for you because they grazed. Now they're locked up in pens, and and they're feeding them GMO, and there's less of it, and now meat costs $13 to $15 a pound. So they whack 60 million acres of public land from grazing. That is the meat thing, okay? And so, you know, another thing is that, what happens is grasslands, okay, they're essential for carbon, the real grasslands. And they're saying that what happened is we don't have the natural grasslands anymore. We only have 5% of them. And all of a sudden they're going to start, they get into, well, you need that, for the carbon. And so, that also affects the species and it causes global warming. And I'm not going to get into the global warming. We'll do that separate because that is a bigger picture, not just the Wildlands Project and not just meat. We're just talking about meat, and we're trying to relate it to wolves and bears and forests and corridors and buffer zones, and how they're going to move us to little small stacking packs across the street from bike paths, bicycle lanes, and train stations, okay? And so cows fart, yes. They trample out soil, yes, they do some of that. They cause dusting, yes, they do that. The government wasn't making enough money, yes, they do that. And so that is the main reason. The main reason is they want to rewild the planet. They want to give the planet back to the animals. And the way to do it, the animals, you need carnivores. You need carnivores in the forests, and the forests have to be big enough. Unfortunately, all our parks are too small. They're not big enough to handle the carnivores. And if you don't have carnivores, then what happens is you lose other species. You lose the songbirds. You lose the frogs, the tortoises. And maybe we'll do some videos on those kind of species. All right. But I know that somebody said that had 559 or 500 some species were endangered, in 1990, and by 1999 it was up to 1,200. It doubled, and so then they try to see what caused it to double, and there is some reasoning of doing all this, okay, but it surely isn't cow farts. It's not cow farts. If you want to stop, now, you know what? If you really want to stop this global problem, okay, of emissions, the number one emitters are China and India. They are the biggest pollutant pigs on this planet. Just go to Earth Null School, look up the parts per the particles in the air, and it's all colorful too. China and India are pure red. They are polluting so bad they're destroying this planet. Then you go to another site and you look at ship tracks, okay? And then you do this SO2, carbon dioxide, and you'll see all the shipping lanes. They're the number 2 producer of destroying this planet. All the ships. 30,000 ship sorties. We'll do a video just on that. We'll do a video on bunker fuel and kerosene. And then you got China, India, or China. You got the land, you got the water. That's it. The third one is the air. And if you look at the airplanes, they're using JP5 fuel. That stuff has barium, strontium, aluminum oxide. It used to be initially for high altitude, flying. It's for jets, okay? They're, jet fuel. Now all the planes got it. And that's why you see them trails. And whenever you got particles in the air, what happens? They cause clouds and carbon, you get H2O because you can't have a cloud without a particle. I mean, if we didn't have volcanoes, we wouldn't even be here because the volcanoes make it rain because that stuff floats around for 10 years up in the skies. So that's what's happening. So these guys are totally polluting and causing our clouds to be not blue anymore. All right. So you want to stop that, get rid of all the stuff going on in those two countries, slow down shipping, and slow down airplanes. Don't be blaming it on cows farting and pigs farting and chickens farting. Are you kidding me? Are you guys that stupid? You guys are that stupid, aren't you? You believe this crap. You believe all of this. And you know why? Because your mind has been disassociated. You have been programmed. You watch too much TV. You've got too much trauma going on because TV is trauma, and repetitive programming. And they tell you this stuff. And you run around waving your little green flags. Oh, I'm a vegan. Oh, I'm not eating meat. The poor little animals. You know, and they show you a couple videos of chickens that are locked up, and they take this whole thing and spin it. And they're and in the meantime, you're worried about chicken cages and chickens that could never fly, and and you don't want to eat meat because they're farting, okay, because it's killing the planet. And here you got a dog, two dogs that are like three SUVs. Dogs, dog food, create all kind of. You want okay. Let's go to the pets. That's number 4. We'll do cars, then we'll do pets. So you can't just pick on cows. Cows are like they're on the bottom of the list. You guys start at the top of the list. We work our way down. You want to get rid of cows, get rid of dogs and cats because they're the same thing. They make dog food. You ever see a dog food? How much it costs to make? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pets, okay? I'm just saying everybody's twisted. This is spun out of control, and because of the mind association, you guys believe this crap that you watch on your liberal or your Fox or your CNN or your MSNBC. They're not telling you everything. Just like you people with your car batteries. God, I just did a video on car batteries, lithium and cobalt. You got it. That is so not renewable. It's not even funny. Watch my video. I just did it. But anyways, hey, thanks for coming on. I do have a service for people with house problems. I've been a home inspector for 40 years. I've done lots of home inspections, and I've had every license there was. So I do try to solve people's problems on the phone, house problems or any kind of problem associated with homes, buildings, and problems that most people can't solve. Just Google Clevelandmarko, M-E-R-K-O with a question. Google Clevelandmarko with a question. There's a small fee. We could do this on the phone. You could send me some pictures. I could look at whatever you got if you want a second opinion on, a bid or waterproofing or whatever. And then I also have some links below. I do have some products. I'll add those a little bit later when I have time that are associated, with that are kind of part of the video. And please like, subscribe, hit the bell for more of my videos. I do have some jokes. I'm gonna do like 400 jokes is my goal. They're all 14 seconds long. They're on my shorts. These videos you're looking at my live videos where I scream at the world. The truth videos, I'll call them, those are all on my live channel. And then I have my other channel with 800 videos, and you could search. I pretty much got everything you want on houses, and even a lot of my urban exploring videos are on there. I don't spend a lot of time anymore on making beautiful videos with music and all that. YouTube, Facebook, they're not worthy of my time. So if I make a few mistakes, I say some words wrong, if there's some spelling errors, hey, I'm just doing this off the cuff here. And actually, this whole video was off the cuff. So I probably missed a bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm looking at my notes now, and I didn't even read half of them. But it was all about meat. There's a lot more to this meat thing, and I'm already at 30 minutes. So maybe I'll do a meat part 2. I wrote down, I got what I just said on this one, so it'll be different. I'll just add to it. So hey, thanks for coming on. Hit the bell and rate, subscribe. Have a nice day. All right, Debbie.